We are joined with a new camera, looking great in the new year. The one and only Peter Coffin. Peter Coffin, he is a journalist with over 250,000 YouTube subscribers, podcaster, and author. In his book, Custom Reality and You, they explore a world where profit is the driving force. Happy New Year, man. How you doing today? You doing all right?
Happy New Year. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I am doing good. I'm doing better than the people in New Orleans. Let me do just
Yeah.
a heads up to the audience real quick. Because I always hate this transition because it feels so vulgar. But look, if you guys dig the show, if you dig the content, you give it a like, share it. You can hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. I pop in at all times of the day and night because I don't sleep all that well. And so it could be 2 in the morning, and you will see me when real men can't sleep. Real men do the news. Also, if you really dig the content, it's the truth. If you really dig the content, you can support it through PayPal, Patreon, or Super Chats. All chats and stickers will be read, providing they're not racist, sexist, or bigoted. If you want to take the piss out of me, you can even do that. Let's start with New Orleans. So, as I brief the audience, this was a grim situation that took place yesterday. A man by the name of Shamsud Din Jabbar. He rents a truck, takes that truck, drives it to Louisiana, goes to Bourbon Street, goes around a police car, plows through a crowd, killing 15, injures scores more. He gets out, starts a gunfight with the cops. The cops end up shooting him dead. Now, apparently, there was an ISIS flag in the back. There were videos that apparently he put out on social media. Those videos have been removed. But Joe Biden came out and, I guess, briefed people on what was in those videos. But what it boils down to is apparently he was divorced. It sounds like he was having a complete mental breakdown. He said he was going to kill his entire family. Then somewhere along the way, he made the decision to just kill as many people as he possibly could kill. Now, the FBI is looking into this, believing that there's other people associated with it. And so they're not looking at this as a purely individual thing. Now, that doesn't really make sense, though. Because if he's having a mental breakdown in the car, he's like driving and talking in video, saying, I was going to kill my family, I had a divorce, but now I was going to kill as many other people. Then it becomes weird if they're saying that there may be someone else working with him in this. Like, that sounds like a spur of the moment thing. If you're saying I'm going to kill my family, no, I have a better idea. I'm going to kill a lot of people. But then somehow you're working with somebody else. So that doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. They're still doing an investigation in order to figure out what's going on. Simultaneously to this, Cybertruck blows up outside of Trump Hotel.
Yeah, not a good day for trucks yesterday.
Not a good day at all. And apparently these were rented at the same place. And then they even is a connection with the military with the guy who owned the Cybertruck, apparently going through the same military, I believe, Fort Bragg's as Jabbar, Shamsud Din Jabbar. Now, just one last point before I bring you in, Peter. To knock down the nonsense that has been coming out of social media. Initially, they said he was an immigrant who immigrated apparently through the Mexican border, who was ISIS fighter. None of that was true. This guy was an American. He was from Texas. He was as American as I was, and as any of you who are watching. Let's start there. I guess give me your take, Peter. I mean, this is pretty grim, to put it mildly, but give me your thoughts.
Yeah, like I said, bad day for trucks, cyber and otherwise.
Yeah.
I don't know. It to me, the fact that there's been some implication that both of these were somehow related to immigrants in some way it's strange amidst this whole H-1B controversy that's been kicked up by Elon and Vivek. It's interesting that, they kicked up this crap and suddenly now whether or not it's either of these things is related to immigrants. Obviously, the second one we already know wasn't. The first one,
that guy wasn't an immigrant. That guy was American.
No, it's a guy. And why would an American want to bomb Trump? There's only like a huge segment of people in this country that are convinced that it's Hitler. Can't figure that one out. But the other one,
Yeah, but I'm sorry.
But the other one, having the alleged ISIS flag in it, and we don't have any information on this guy. It's been the opposite of how they've treated the Cybertruck thing. They wanted people to know about the Cybertruck thing, and they wanted it to look bad for Tesla. They framed that up very much as if that was just a Cybertruck that spontaneously exploded.
Now, to be fair,
like,
some of them do.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, some of them
but it's
do.
like it's statistically
but it's very
not.
coincidental. Yeah, very coincidental.
Yeah. It's close enough. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, just so happened
they felt like they had an
Trump's hotel. Yeah, yeah. It's a little weird.
But the thing is I'm in no way shocked that like they've told the population that this guy's Hitler nonstop for a year, actually 6. But I'm not shocked by that one. I am a little shocked by the other one, and it's partly because we just don't have any information. Now, Biden did kind of come out and lean a little bit into like, yeah, we think it was ISIS. I don't know that I think that it was ISIS. I mean, I'm also divorced, and my first inkling was not, let me partner with ISIS and start up a killing spree.
Right. Yeah, I'm divorced too.
It was more along the lines of really just sucks to be divorced.
Yeah. I didn't
I'm not.
I mean,
I'm not saying like. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say I was divorced about 2 years ago. It didn't occur to me to kill a lot of people after the divorce. Like you said, it just sucks.
Well, I mean, even if it had, I don't know that ISIS is the first place you'd go to for that. Like that even too. Like lunatic killers, I don't think a lot of them just go, you know what? I could probably do this way better with ISIS's help.
Well, that's the rub. So thought. Right here, it says the videos are dark, so the suspect isn't seen, but can be heard talking about his divorce and his desire to kill members of his family before he ultimately decided to carry out the attack on Bourbon Street, according to the law enforcement sources. So, can you imagine that? Like, he's on video driving, and he's effectively saying, "Yeah, I was going to kill my wife and kids or family, but no, I know who's the better target." Just every random American.
I hate to laugh at it, but like it's such a horrible, like stupid. Yeah, I hate this kind of event because the problem is there are always so many stupid contradictions. Like this one, it's an absurd situation if you really line up everything that's going on, and then you add in Biden kind of, in my opinion, stirring the pot in a bad way. I think that there was not enough information to say that. I mean, even if they have more information, I don't think that this is something that looks clearly like anything that had anything to do with ISIS. I don't care if there was an ISIS flag in the back of the truck. I don't necessarily believe that's true, but that's not enough for me to go, yeah, you know what? ISIS caused this.
Sounds like a man who's losing his mind.
Yeah, I mean, well, you get really messed up emotionally from like stuff that hits you hard. Not necessarily even a divorce, just something like a death or something that fundamentally changes your life in a way that is negatively affecting you. It can get you to a point where you're really upset. Some people have psychotic breaks. It sounds to me like this guy had a psychotic break. That doesn't like make this all right or anything. Like it's actually awful. It's terrible. And the fact that this guy did this is awful. And it's an example of a lot of the ways that the United States culture is seriously messed up. But I don't know. I got on Twitter and I saw a clip of Biden talking about ISIS and how this could possibly be linked to that in some way. And I was just like, it just immediately hit me wrong. I just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, why would you say that if you don't know? To me, ISIS is a very serious like thing. Like it's a huge allegation to say that something like this had something to do with ISIS, especially if you've got videos of this man, going on about how he's going to kill his family, and then like, I have a better idea. It's I don't know.
That's what I mean. Like, it's very bizarre. I mean, I was looking for the flag thing. I don't see the flag in this article, and I mean, there was so much information that was coming out before. I mean, they might. because I've seen two things. One was like a flag or something in his car associated with it. Then somebody else said, well, that was a jacket that wasn't. But I saw the video, and there was something that was laid out that looked like a flag or something that was in the back truck. I agree with you.
And
because
he framed
here's
it
another
as
one.
like possible ISIS connections. It was just such a weird.
And so it says New Orleans police have reviewed surveillance video that appears to show several people planning potential explosive devices in advance of a vehicle attack, which led them to believe that he was not solely responsible, sources said. Investigators are urgently working to identify the individuals. Okay, so for my question is, okay, well, if you saw them planting what you believe to be explosive devices, I mean, that's either true or false, right? It says, well, why do you need the surveillance of that? Either the thing blew up or not, or you were able to just get the device. So it says review surveillance that appears to show people several planting explosive device. Okay, so that's weird. And like, what do you mean appears? Did they go off or not? I mean, if I am watching and I'm saying, okay, well, somebody is planning something, then I go to the scene to see, okay, is that a device or not? Or was that somebody, putting a beer can down that you believe was an explosive device? And then the other part to this, where they're effectively saying he's driving in the car, he's driving a truck to Texas. And it says right here, the FBI is studying the videos that President Biden talked about in his remarks. And it appears that they were recorded while driving from Texas to Louisiana. So he is on the fly doing this. But they're also saying that somebody was setting bombs in advance of him getting there, even though he's on the fly doing this. That's just super weird. I've never heard an ISIS person say Allah Akbar and that damn wife. You know what I mean? Like that's a bizarre correlation. Where it's like all praises be to God and F that wife. I've never heard that. I don't speak Arabic, so fair enough. Who knows?
No. I mean, there's certain aspects of that make it impossible for you or I to hear that, but we would have known by now.
Yeah. He killed all of these people in a bomb blast, and damn it, his wife was the last thing that was on his lips as he did it. Yeah, I don't know anybody who does that. Like, this is a bizarre case for them to kind of make that. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. That's all.
I don't like it. It comes off to me as like shit stirring, like trying to shit stir. Like I obviously the Democrats are not happy with the result of the election.
Oh, of course not.
Did I break up there?
No, you're fine.
Okay, all right. My computer did something weird, so I was
okay. Fine.
Obviously, the Democrats didn't love the result of the election, and there have been things that they've done which have set up some difficulties for Trump. Now, I'm not going to say that they wouldn't have done these things if Trump was not incoming, but they've done a lot of stuff, like say regarding the Ukraine war. For instance.
But how would this though affect Trump? How would this one affect Trump though?
Well, if they set up an ISIS threat, if they start linking things to ISIS here, and they get people talking about ISIS as though it's somehow performing terror attacks in the United States, I do see that as some kind of thing that might affect the Trump administration. I like various scare tactics. To me, it's something that it doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem like it doesn't make sense. Like ISIS is kind of a greatest hits scare at this point.
I can think of one thing. Well, Donald Trump, the last time he was in, he killed Obama's program to overthrow the Assad government. Now, apparently, now,
they could blame him for this then.
Well, no, because Joe Biden. Well, there were a few things. Apparently, they had 900 troops in Syria that now they're saying, oh, by the way, they were 2,000. We found 1,800 or what is that? 1,200 more troops out of the blue. They just found them. On top of that, if Donald Trump comes in with this notion of, well, I'm pulling the troops out of Syria, I'm done with this. I'm going to hand it over to Turkey or something like that. It may make them harder to do that now, because from their point of view is, well, hey, ISIS is still a threat. And so we can't pull American troops out. So we must defend the Kurds that are currently there for the SDF, meaning it could set a context. I've had this hypothesis
Yeah.
that a lot of stuff that's been taking place around the globe has been in relation to Trump coming in office, where they're trying to Trump-proof the world in order to maintain the orthodoxy and the way things work. So in South Korea, they want to overthrow the government of South Korea because they don't know if the guy is going to be completely loyal, especially considering the opposition is like, hey, why are we fighting China like this? Why are we allowing ourselves to be teed up to fight? This doesn't really make sense. So maybe they don't necessarily trust the democracy of South Korea, in which case they want a dictator in. The U.S. was very quiet as, Yoon Suk Yeol was overthrowing and declaring martial law. He is about to be arrested right now. In Europe, you've had nationalist governments that have been skeptical of war, either a Supreme Court or court case killing the election altogether in Romania, or what seems to be, not seems to be, it is, this kind of attempted overthrow of the Georgian government with the French-born, many considered to be a spy, president or former president of Georgia, working with Europe to overthrow the democratically elected government, the Georgia Dream Party, as the prime minister, and for that matter, even to prevent the other president from coming in. These were nationalist governments that were skeptical of the war, and these governments had maximalist pressure put on those governments, whereas you get like Don Jr. saying, whoa, what the hell is going on in Europe? And why are you guys screwing with these elections that you guys are obviously screwing with? So, is this one of those things where these guys are taking various actions? And as you pointed out, Ukraine, where Joe Biden seems to be doing any and everything in his power to screw over Trump before Trump gets in order to keep that war going, or at the very least to escalate that war in some way, or to make it difficult for the war to be unraveled. So it could be, you might be right. You could be right. This could be shit stirring with this idea, like feeding into this kind of foreign policy thing that Joe Biden and the Democrats and liberals want to keep into effect, especially with the protection of the Kurds. If the U.S. pulls out, that becomes very speculative.
And the thing is, I don't think Donald Trump is necessarily going to handle all of, let's say they didn't do all of that stuff. I don't know that he'd do a great job with any of these situations. But with these things, I don't know. It's such a obviously, the changing of power in the United States is a big thing. It does trigger events worldwide. But a lot of these events seem like they're setting up difficulties for Trump specifically. And I think that I don't think that it's because, like I said, it's kind of a greatest hits, the ISIS thing. It's one of the greatest hits, bad things could happen thing that the president might say at this point. And I just don't see the ISIS connection in either of these things. And why would you bring it up with the Cybertruck one? That was, more of maybe a media creation, but still, why is that being brought up at all amongst either of these events? It's just such a weird thing. And I hate to be conspiratorial. I don't like to do that. I don't like to make these types of assertions because I have no evidence for it. But in my gut, it just comes off as odd. It comes off as very strange. I don't understand why you would link these things to ISIS. And then, like you, I think, put out a very comprehensive list of things that are happening. Particularly, I've been thinking more about the South Korea, the coup, and how that's related. I do think that's related. These things, these things all, they sound related because, whether they're related because people are just reacting to the changing of power in the United States, or they're, color revolution-esque events. I don't know, but they're definitely related. I do think there's a decent chance that they're color revolution adjacent actions. I do think that there is some degree of the United States pushing things in certain directions and trying to get certain outcomes. And I do think that it's trying to set up Trump for failure. If I'm honest, do I think that he would necessarily succeed? I don't know, but I do see some kind of spite. There is obviously, Trump is not a predictable quantity in a lot of respects. He is not automatically for the United States imperial order in the way that the financial sector and the state previously necessarily want it to exist. He's not necessarily like he likes going into North Korea and trying to create peace. That pisses everybody off. That pisses people off that, are pretty ardent supporters of Trump in other respects. I don't know. I just don't. I look at it like it seems related. And, again, I don't want to pretend like I am an expert at all of these events. I'm not. But they stack up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they stack up in a way where it doesn't, it's all of this crap. Like none of this crap was happening before the votes were counted. And then suddenly all of this crap is happening.
All hell breaks loose. Yeah. And South Korea thing is a really good example. Donald Trump wanted to make peace. Everybody flipped out.
Yeah.
And then you get this situation where the guy's like, I'm declaring martial law. It's like, where the hell did that come from? Like just out the blue.
Yeah.
It
just happened one day.
Yeah.
It was
like
such a weird watching that happen was so weird because that guy, like, normally when you talk about presidents and countries, world leaders, these people don't act like on a whim. They don't just like wake up one day. Like people, for instance, Putin didn't go, you know what? I want to invade a smaller country today. Like it's not, they do these things because of events that lead up to it. Like the revolution in Ukraine, the color revolution in Ukraine in 2014 and the events following that led up to Russia having to act, whether people like it or not. That's completely fine to have that debate, but it's something that in world events, that would be the reaction that a rational entity would have. Right. What the hell inspired martial law in South Korea? What the hell led up to that? It didn't seem like anything was really going on there.
Yeah, it was weird. It was very weird. I've had people on to talk about it. It was very weird. I have a hard time believing that the U.S. didn't at the very least know about it. And apparently that had been like a year in the making. I mean, like taking people prisoner, disappearing various politicians. I mean, just astonishing stuff. Let's get domestic for a bit.
It was kept
I got to bring
in a way. We didn't know about that stuff until after.
Yeah, it was just after the fact when we found out. It was just super weird. It was very weird. I want to get your take on something that pissed me off. I hated the video that I did on it because I was too annoyed. In that video, I was just angry. So I want to play this clip. This is Simone Sanders, and I want listen to what she says because it's almost like she's come. You've seen this clip, okay? Good. She's come to this appraisal. She's come to this appraisal. Now, in one case, and I need to find that clip. The Democrats were saying they need to do so, like they need to be more illegal in regards to the way they deal with super PACs. And it's like, okay, this is outrageous. It's like, yeah, we need to have more coordination with super PACs, which is completely illegal. In this one, she's like, we need a workers' movement. Now, for people like you and me who scream that this is obviously what the Democratic Party should be, what they used to be, and what they fundamentally abandoned. And even when people rear their heads up like a Sanders, they did any and everything in their power with the entire weight of the Democratic Party to crush Sanders. And now, after losing, where millions of people just said, screw it, I'm not showing up, Simone Sanders comes out and says this to Republican Michael Steele, no less, who in no way agrees with this take, but whatever. He's shaking his head. Let's play the clip. I want to get your take on this.
Well, he claims to at the end.
About organize. I mean, people often talk about, I mean, this has literally been going on since Fred Hampton, but I mean, Reverend Jesse Jackson, Dr. King, right? Heck, Bernie Sanders talked about organizing across class as well, because the reality is when you align just along, if we're going to just specifically talk about white people for a second, okay? If we just talk about aligning just across race, we are seeing the divisions happening right now. The white billionaires, Elon Musk is not saying, yes, I'm fighting for the little guy. Yes, I'm out here, looking out for the forgotten white man. He is saying, these folks are mediocre and let me get somebody else to do it, which is why folks, white, Black, Latino, Native American, Asian American, Pacific Islander, and otherwise, we have to look at organizing across class, okay? Because the reality is what they said, as Michael said, what they said about Black people all those years ago, and they still trying to say it about us, to be very clear. Now they're saying it out loud about people who are not Black, about you, okay? First they came for us, now they're coming for you. You are not exempt, boo-boo. Let's come together.
I couldn't have said it better. Church on Sunday mornings.
Couldn't have said it better. Republican Michael Steele. Why is Michael Steele there? Like, you talk about yes man for the Democratic Party. That's so sad. Michael Steele didn't used to be that guy, man. Michael Steele used to be the head of the Republican National Committee. I mean, he was the guy who was in charge of the Republican National Committee when I was coming up in my politics. And now he is sitting there like a little,
like an SNL skit.
Yeah, right. It looks like a SNL skit. Like, this guy's a Republican and he's just a yes man at this point. It's like he's a battered man. That's what it feels like. It feels like he's a battered man that he's given a paycheck and they sit him up there as a fixture to be the opposition to whatever the Democratic Party is saying to Michael Steele as the opposition. Do you know my first realization about Syria came from Michael Steele? That is not the same guy. I remember when Michael Steele, Chris Matthews was talking about how awesome Obama handled Libya, how great Libya turned out, and all of this nonsense. And Michael Steele, at the very end of the segment, with like 20 seconds, he says, "Have you seen Syria? Have you seen Libya lately?" And the clip goes off. And I said, "What is Michael Steele talking about? What do you mean, have I seen Syria? Oh my God, they're selling slaves." It became that. That is a different guy. That is a different guy. That is a beaten man. That is a beaten, broken man. Give me a take on that clip. I'm sorry. I don't mean to emasculate Michael Steele, but the idea that this Republican is sitting there like a workers' rights movement is just astonishing. Just astonishing.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better at church. I couldn't. I don't. That comes off as the most absurd thing just because of how silly it sounds out of his mouth in particular.
Yeah.
But really the silly thing is Simone Sanders. Like, she kind of managed to really say the I don't want to say the dumb thing because obviously I agree with what she's saying. But the fact is, this goes along with, the Cenk Uygur stuff that's been happening recently.
Yes.
These people
yes.
suddenly have all the right ideas in their heads. How'd that happen? I don't know. We lost. We lost, but you know what? We're the rational losers here. We're the rational losers. We understand. We know how to take the information presented to us and learn from it. Never mind the fact that it is the stuff that you've been shitting on for years and years and years. You and I both have dealt with this.
Yes.
We have both said very similar things, and it didn't start recently.
Yes.
We've dealt with the followings of these types of people. We've dealt with things that they've said in the media. They cause arguments in our directions when we say things like that. Somehow we're jingoist racists.
Yes, because we care about workers'
did I get my?
You froze slightly, but you're fine. Look, you had no issues.
Yeah, my connection is getting very bad. I don't know what's going on.
So you're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
But yeah.
No, and I agree with you. My audience hates Cenk Uygur, and I came out with a video, and I was like, "Well, on this, Uyghur's right." And my audience is like, "How dare you, sir?" He's right. You should be trying to make inroads with the other groups. The issue is, as you point out, he's been shitting on people who's been saying that for the last several years. Like, meaning when as I point out to people on my show, I bring people who are on the left and the right, and I have those conversations. Sometimes you have fights with those people, but you need to be able to try to make inroads and try to reach, because it's very possible that you go into a space and no one has ever heard that argument before. Like, it's possible you go on somebody's show and they have never heard a take short of the Charlie Kirk take, or the short of the, I don't know, any random Republican take that you might hear. And they're like, "Hey, I agree with that guy." You might not even need the guy to agree with everything, just the openness, just this where you can get your argument in where it's not immediately rejected because they've seen you at the very least be willing to have a conversation with a right winger or something to that effect. I think it's right. I think, to your point, that's not and hasn't been his point of view. And I'll go further. The shit that he's taken from the left right now is his bed that he's made. Like, meaning the cultish left that have been losing their minds about the fact that he would take any point of view that is different or deviates from their own point of view, whether Uygur realizes it or not. And I know he gets pissed off at it. That was him, too.
He's partially responsible for that media demographic. Now, I don't like calling that area of people like a legitimate political movement. I don't think that it is. I think that it's a bunch of people who watch internet content all day and get mad when the thing that they're consuming isn't exactly right. The recipe changed a little bit and it doesn't taste as good. That's what I think that is personally. And he is, as many of these people who are saying things like that, Simone Sanders, like, massively responsible for curating that demographic, for creating that group of people, or at least the place for them to congregate that unites all of them, that places them in opposition with anybody who says anything that they don't like. Oh, they started using artificial sweeteners in the ding dongs. I don't like it as much. That's what it is. And they're responsible for it. And that's why I've been mad at these people saying this crap. It's not because I disagree with it. I agree with it. Every word they're saying, it's completely right. Well, maybe not every word, but a lot of the words they're saying are completely right. Like, yes, the left is like nuts, but they're responsible for it. They've created that marketing demographic. They've marketed themselves to it. They've, made money off of it. And they have helped create a demand for it. Like, they've marketed it into existence. It's them who have done
that. Yeah.
I mean, keep in mind, it's not.
No, please. No, please. Finish.
It's not like, I mean, this is what my book, Custom Reality and You, starts addressing. I call the demographic that we're talking about, the cultish left. It's an identity and it's a community. It's the commodified version of both of those things. They create a place for them to live. They created not live like a house, but like exist. And they create like a means to have meaning, for them to have identity and for them to be something. And the fact is, he's taken part in cultivating that in the world. And then I don't understand why he doesn't get why those people that he's spent this time, like, he's not the only one, and Simone Sanders is not the only one. There's a lot of these people, and they seem shocked that they are not, that they're not being like immediately followed. Like, they spent years and years and years giving these people identity and community around the idea that they are completely right, and any deviation from it is just dire and horrible. They're Nazis now. Anybody who isn't them is a Nazi. And I don't understand how they think, I'm going to just pivot now. I'm like, they think that the problem is also Trump won. Like, it's a very obvious social fact that the majority of the people in the United States are not the cultish left that they curate.
Right.
And they're like, oh, wait, I kind of, maybe this might be a little more lucrative over here for right now. I think that's, whether that's a conscious choice or not, I'm not alleging, but I think that it's there. And it's like, read my book. I'm in the process of writing another big book. I write the little booklets for all of my documentaries, but I'm writing a big book called The Road to Fandom, where I'm sort of criticizing this on a more extensive level and connecting all of my little things from Custom Reality and You and Woke Ouroboros. It's about fandom. This is ultimately fandom. They have created a product for people to be fans of, and they have changed the product. And that, like, New Coke didn't go over well for a reason. It's because people wanted old Coke. It's not necessarily because New Coke was bad. It's because Coke was a certain thing and they changed it,
What's wild to me is, like, because I agree with you. They cultivated. I mean, look, audiences are that way. I mean, I strongly suspect. How can I say this? YouTube channels are weird things because it's like they are the energy of those channels. It's almost like they're different worlds, and each world comes across on some level because of the host. And if you go from one to the next, they can be radically different in regards to what is allowed, what is normal. There's some channels that I would call just blatantly racist. There are like just
oh, there are.
Has zero issue with it, and the audience gets it. The audience knows we can be blatantly racist here. The host is okay with it. And there are other channels where if you say something like, well, trans women are not real women, they'll say you're transphobic and get the hell out of here. Like it's so radically different in regards to how far these channels can be. What's wild to me is that, like you said, after spending 10 years cultivating a brand and a thought process and everything else, for them to deviate even a small amount, like for them to say, I don't think kids should be sent to trans surgeries. And they were like, when did Cenk Uygur become transphobic? And it's like, what? Saying something that I think is like outlandish, with this idea of a child who is not even allowed to drink can make the choice that is going to dramatically affect their life for the rest of their life. That is somehow transphobic. You're out of your mind. And yet, when Uygur makes the point of view, they attack him for it. And then all of a sudden, it's like Uygur is pivoting to the right. Uygur is becoming a Nazi. Uygur is this, and it's like, okay, you people have lost your mind. Like, but that's what I mean, right? It's like you said, the small flavor change is too much. Whereas instead of them look at it and say, okay, well, that's his point of view on that. I agree with him. I disagree with him.
Well, that's the thing. I'm extremely pro-trans people. I am myself. I identify as non-binary. When you read my thing, you say the word they. Like all that shit is in my head. And when I hear that issue, the idea of surgeries on kids, I hear two things. I hear either it's not happening, there's no evidence for that, or it's good. It would be good if it was happening.
Right.
And it's like, no, it's not. These people can't consent to sex. They can't drink. They can't take drugs.
We can chop
the drugs that are legal anyways.
Okay. Yeah.
These are things that are consent oriented. And to be frank, you are not developed as a human being as a child. And I am not saying that I am against anything. I just made it very clear that I am very much for.
Yeah.
But these are permanent decisions. And I don't like the idea of permanent decisions being made. And this gets me in trouble. And I like, with the preface I gave you, this gets me in trouble. So it's
I know, but think how weird that is, though. Like, that's what I mean, right? Like, I think somehow they've conflated civil rights as if these things are one-to-one with these kind of gender issues. And kind of, but not really. I mean,
in certain ways, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But not in that way.
Yeah, it's very different. Like if I think, okay, this person who's Black, trans, Chinese, Japanese is somehow inferior. Okay, then fair enough. Call the person racist, transphobic, or whatever else. That's a mindset that's, that is in that person's head that has nothing to do with the reality of events that's taking place in regards to who that person is.
Yes.
If I say I am uncomfortable with a child potentially being pushed by their parents to get a surgery that is going to scar them for life, well, that's not me being transphobic. That's not a civil rights issue. That's a argument that I'm making, saying I think this is outrageous. And
I also think that it's actually not beneficial to trans people. Like if you have a wave of people who get surgeries who regret it later in life, that they go, I wasn't old enough to make that decision. That's going to be ultimately bad for trans people. That is going to make the whole thing look less legitimate. And I very much think that that's important too. So whether it is or isn't happening, if they want to outlaw it, like a lot of people will say, it's not even happening. Sure, fine. Outlaw it then. What harm does that do? You know what I mean? It's such a dumb issue. such a
They would
dumb,
call
I
it
mean, we're obviously
transphobic.
talking. Yeah, no, I know. But here's the thing. We talk about this type of a thing, and obviously we're getting wrapped up in it a little bit. But the point is, this is us having a conversation that is not blatantly, anti anything other than just wanting people of adult consenting age to make that decision. That's the only thing we're talking about here. And it will, I guarantee you, this is going to kick up problems now that we've gotten into it.
But that's the one.
But-
I mean, that's that's shocking to me. Like the way it's gone too far. It's just gone too far. People should be.
What I'm getting at, though, is that these guys, the Annika Sparians, the Cenk Uygurs, the Simone Sanders, they set this up. They set this up. They set up a situation where people like yourself and myself can't have this conversation. And then they want to have that conversation. And it's like, well, what do you expect to happen? I just don't. They act so bewildered by the response to this. And it's like, what did you think was going to happen? You've made videos attacking people on this thing. And now you want to go, oh, well, maybe I was wrong about that in some way. I don't necessarily hate trans people, but, I don't know about this thing. It's just, it comes off disingenuous. Well, I might agree with the idea of having the conversation. I clearly agree with that idea. And I agree with the idea of having a lot of other conversations with things that I think would not land in my corner, at least what you would expect my corner to be based on this conversation. I don't think that I would get my way every single time. And I don't even know if my way is the right way. I'm not pretending that I am a clairvoyant. It's just, I'm not omniscient. I'm not God. I'm not right about everything. But it's important to be able to have the conversations because there are things like this where there's nuances that are important to observe. Like, I really don't think that somebody who can't legally have sex should make decisions like that modify or should be given the opportunity to make the decisions. That could very well be a push in certain areas. A doctor saying this is the right thing to do, a parent saying this is the right thing to do. I don't think that's a good thing. I think that's a bad thing. Like, it's not because I'm anti anything. It's because I think that these are people who might have buyer's remorse, and buyer's remorse is not a good thing for the trans movement, in my opinion.
Peter, 1,000% agree with you, man. Before I close it, I got to get to the story because you hit me up with this story. And this was something I had been watching myself. And, I was uncomfortable with this when I saw it. And I think my reason for uncomfortable with it is because it's like, dude, you get like $10 billion of taxpayer money. Why does the citizenry have to go out and do your jobs? And so it's like, so Rhea, just to play the video one more time. This is Guardian Angels who are now back on New York subways because they've become so dangerous, effectively death traps, for 15 minutes at a time as they're going from post to post to post, and there are no cops apparently in the subways. So these good Samaritans have decided that they needed to go out like Batman and patrol Gotham or New York to ensure that people aren't being tossed off of subways into trains or being stabbed or, for that matter, being set on fire, all of which have taken place over the last couple of weeks. Just astonishing.
Well, day and night patrols, 3-person patrols, we're all together. We're walking through the cars, which is something the police no longer do. Notice there are no mental health workers. There are no crisis intervention. They have all these fancy names. I never see them. And we spend millions of dollars, I might add. Our job is, A, do a wellness check on a homeless person. If they're homeless or emotionally disturbed, see if they're okay. If all of a sudden we walk into a situation where there's an episode, which oftentimes happens, we have to calm it down. A lot of times, these homeless and emotionally disturbed persons, they know of the guardian angels. We can have a calming effect. We can also bring the situation to the attention of cops on the platform. If there are cops, you're going to probably see them.
I want to get a shout out to the unsung actor of that scene, the New York accent.
No, I was literally thinking about how he's going to do an impression of this guy when we were done talking.
Right. It's like Spider-Man in New York City. It's like New York City is like a character, even though you don't really see it. That accent is a character in that skit, like nobody's business. It's almost like it has a leading role. Shout out to that guy in that accent.
I think he's bad, and I don't like him very much. That's my favorite part in Spider-Man when Jim Norton says that.
I don't like him very much.
I don't like him very much.
Give me your take on that. It's inspiring but depressing. Inspiring but depressing.
Well, these guys are trained in de-escalation. So immediately they're in a better position than any other person on the railway. And the thing is, that's good. You want people who are trained in de-escalation taking control of this type of situation, because we have stuff like the Daniel Penny thing where somebody dies for no reason. Like, was it wrong for Daniel Penny to intervene? Like, just that basic question? Absolutely not. It was not wrong. Was it wrong for Daniel Penny to intervene like that? Absolutely. Like, there was no reason for that man to die. He was clearly mentally ill. There was a serious thing going on that was not just him being aggressive. It was him having an episode of some kind. There's no reason for that person to die. There's something that can be done about that, as opposed to killing him. That being said, people are fed up. I would rather have the Guardian Angels, these guys trained in de-escalation, taking control of these situations than a Daniel Penny, or in some cases the cops, because the cops don't exactly de-escalate very well either. But like you said before you put the clip on, why is that the citizen's job? Why does somebody have to be Batman? Why does somebody have to do that? The New York City Police Department is one of the most well-funded organizations in the world. They have a budget of a small country's military, and they have every bit of jurisdiction to do anything in any of these situations. There's no questions asked. And yet, in that video where we saw that woman get burned to death, we saw a cop walk by several times like, something's happening. There's a serious problem in that institution, well beyond the corruption that has been previously. Like, what are they doing with that money? Where is that money going? And on top of that, why aren't they affected why are these people in no way affected by any of these situations that happen, to the point where they basically ignore it? Yes, like you said, it is in some ways inspiring to hear these great New Yorkers talking about what needs to happen here. It's in some ways like that guy's an old school New York motherfucker, and it's cool to see, and it's nice to see that there are people who care. I love that there's people who care. That makes me happy. But at the same time, they have to step up and make it known that they are a presence, because everything else has failed. Everything. Like, there's no aspect of that situation that is reliably safe. And that's, in a modern society, in a allegedly first world country, that's, a serious problem. And something I've repeated a lot this morning. We are having serious problems. There are serious institutional breakdowns, not like they were, well put together in the past either. They've done a sort of militaristic means of control. But here, I love that this guy's doing this. I love that the Guardian Angels are stepping up and saying de-escalation tactics, that's the way to go. I love that. But it shouldn't, there's no situation where the Guardian Angels should even be necessary.
Man, I agree with you. I like I said, it's inspiring but sad.
Yeah.
It puts you in the mind of like somebody's house on fire. The fire department doesn't come. People just get a bunch of buckets and fill it and just are throwing it at the fire. It's like, okay, that's nice. That's good that people can come together like that. But oh man, they shouldn't have to do that. They shouldn't have to do that.
When the entire idea of GoFundMe, like, it's wonderful that somebody gets medical treatment. I love it. I love seeing that. But at the same time, why is medical treatment something that we have to raise money for?
We spend them like trillions. We spend more than any other country, like on healthcare, and yet we died
It's
10
insane.
years younger. And like you said, GoFundMe accounts in order to pay for the healthcare they were spending trillions of dollars for. Peter, man, thank you for this, man. Always appreciate you joining me, Peter. Really good conversation. I enjoyed this conversation today. It's grim.
I always enjoy a good conversation with you. Let me quickly push. Horseshoe
Please.
Theory is right, but not how you think. It's
Where can people find it, by the way?
It's on Amazon as a book and on YouTube as a documentary you can watch for free.
Oh, okay. Amazon and on YouTube. And the name of it one more time.
Horseshoe Theory is right, but not how you think. Last time I was on, I sold a bunch of copies of it. So it's like, maybe I should do that.
Oh, did you? That's good.
I did. I sold a bunch of copies of it. So I thought, actually,
man,
you know what?
You have no idea how glad I'm to hear that. How glad I am to hear that. Because oftentimes I think to myself, I'm begging people to come on and they get nothing out of it.
Well, no, that's not true. And also, you were talking about earlier. You were promoting. I can't remember whether it was Patreon or just liking the video, but like you were saying, I don't like that transition. The thing is, this stuff takes time. It takes effort. It sucks to have to promote it, but like you and I are both YouTube people, and we don't exist in a situation where we're part of an entity that promotes that aspect of it for us. It sucks. I don't like the business aspect of anything, but I mean, fact is, people should like the video. People should be.
Yeah, I want them to. It's just degrading to have to look. I don't like ask people anything, just in general.
No,
right?
Neither do I.
I like to be able to deal with it on my own. It feels like a degrading experience. Like there's some people who don't care. Like I've seen some YouTubers who have no issue just like begging their audience for money over and over and over. And like you hear the audience like, God, man, every time the guy comes on, he's begging for money. Or like even some of the like Twitch streamers. Like have you ever come across this thing called what is it called? NPCs. So there are some Twitch streamers who would pretend like they're living computer characters.
I know what you're talking about.
And you send them money, and they would give like certain sayings. So like one guy pretends to be
doing
Black
that
Spider.
repetitive.
Yeah, it's the most bizarre thing.
Very nice, very nice.
It's bizarre.
It's very weird.
But they make millions. Some of them used to make millions of dollars. Like, and I'm like, that's how they decided to make cash? That's such a degrading experience. Like it's like you send them like $1 and they'd be like, oh, thank you very much. And so they keep sending them, saying, thank you very much.
And
they
keep doing this. This is
the part that freaks me
out the most. This repeated standing animation that they do. It messes me up.
It's so bizarre. The one Black Spider-Man, he did it in public, and it's the funniest shit in the world.
Yeah, I remember that video specifically.
Start fucking with him. He gets into a fight. There was one where security guards sent him to leave. He's like, I'm gonna do my own thing, and he just keeps doing it. Like as the security guard and the cops have been called. It's bizarre, man.
Yeah, we live in a weird world.
Peter, man, thank you for this, man. I really appreciate it. Peter Coffin, he's a journalist with over 250,000 YouTube subscriber, podcaster, and author. In their book, Custom Reality and You, they explore a world where profit is the driving force. You can follow Peter on YouTube and Twitter at Peter Coffin and purchase their books on Amazon, and that is including his Horseshoe Theory book. Thank you, man. You have a fantastic new year. I hope you have a good one.
You as well. Thank you very much.
All right, we have come to the end of the road.